Welcome back to Horizon Royale, the map swapping crazy PvP game we've been working on. This is our, I can't wait to fix this thing, you guys. This is, I know we're not doing it today. Today we're working on dummies, but this thing, I was just thinking about how much right now, it just like, you tap through it to select which one you want, and there's no back button. It was originally supposed to be a dial that you could like rotate, kind of like the old iPod touches, and then I just kind of like had some trouble figuring out the math, and I decided I was gonna like put it on pause and like just do the tap because it was easy. And at the time we only had like 5 maps, but now we got 14 maps plus bonus things, and so I'm looking forward to making something more like this with a menu system that will have like select the favorite, select maps you visited, select all maps, or like, you know, favorite maps of people in the world. You know, there'll be options, or like the merge map section where you can combine 2 maps into one. And if you're brand new to Horizon Royale and you just stumbled upon this and you're like, what in the world are you talking about? Basically, there's 20 tiles out here, and there's 10 big ones, 10 small ones. They randomly generate 35 of them, so it picks about 10 big tiles and about 25 small tiles, places them randomly, rotates them randomly, and you get something like this. Every single map is different. And then because of that, when we're done, we're expecting to have 2,300 random tiles to select from, and you can then like mix and match and combine them in all sorts of fun ways. And so this one is Blocks by Up Too Late. It is definitely one of my favorites. It's kind of like a Duplo's-like map. Really enjoy it. But today what we want to do is pick up where we left off last time, and I'm just hoping that video is okay because of this video. This video recording actually is going to be the repair file to repair the corrupted files. So hopefully yesterday's video or the video right before this is good, because it shows how we're going to do position tracking. And you don't have to do position tracking this way. I'll show you the super duper easy way that we did before. But what we're going to be doing is sending a position request out to our position manager we just created, and then pulling back the position data to place our dummy on the map. Now, the guns that we're using have a projectile launcher. When that projectile launcher hits an object, it then sends a event back letting us know that it has hit something, and we can then send an event to the object that was hit to let it know that, hey, you've been hit, time to despawn. Yep, this is what happens in build mode. You know, you get locking, lagging, and so that's why we created the debug switch, which turns off all of the asset spawning. And so now none of the assets will spawn when I start the world. And so I'm going to just quickly show you the position control that we built in our previous video. I'm not going to walk through it. I'm just going to show you the way it works is a position is received, or a find position event is received with the object that needs to receive the event back, and a player ID. Now, this player ID can be a server player, but it doesn't really super matter. Anyway, we just need to keep that in parallel for the other teleporting events that we do. And so then here we send loop. And the thing that I wanted to show you in here is we raycast the raycast from a new random vector between -30, +30, up by 50, and another -30, +30. So this defines the coordinates that we're going to be checking. And then by raycasting downwards, that's 0, -1, 0, you'll note this is a raycast with overrides, which is on your actions tab. That's going to give us a position on our grid. So because we're generating the tiles randomly, we need to find a position that is on the grid. Now, the math that happens after this is making sure that there's no line of sights between players. So when it spawns in, the players see each other, or as few players as possible, because it's going to choose the best out of 10 positions. And so if you didn't want to do all that crazy math from yesterday's video, you can instead just watch or just use this one line, and then you'll get the hit point, which is the current position. You can add 1.5 meters up to move it up, and then teleport the player there. So that is the basics. Or in this case, it's not actually a player, right? So this is going to be a dummy. So we need to make a dummy script that's going to link into this. And I kind of want this to be like our grenade script. I don't know if I fully agree with this because I haven't looked at it in a while, but I like the idea that it's a standalone script that will function because of an event received, and it will stop functioning when events are no longer received. So this is going to be called dummies. Dummy targets. Okay, there's our dummy target script. When world is entered by player, we know about all the active players. Do we need to know that for this? I don't think so. I think that was for blowing players up on the grenades. So I think we can delete the world entered by player event, and we can delete the world exited by player event, and There we go. Okay, so we got the delay start event. So we don't need the all active player IDs. We shouldn't need to know any player IDs, in fact. Spawning manager. I think we need to know none of this really. We do need to know about the asset, but we'll create a new variable for that. We don't need to know about the raycast. And a list of the assets that have been spawned. Yes, we need to know that. The spawn manager, I don't think we're going to need that. And then we're going to need a asset variable, which will be called the dummy. Okay, there's our dummy. And click confirm. And then we'll have all of the assets in a list. And then what else do we need here? So we've got the dummy asset. We need to know how many. That was the number of dummies. We'll go ahead and start with 5 dummies on the board. This should just give us a really nice interactive experience while we're waiting for players to join the game. So when there's only one player out on the field, they'll be able to shoot at dummies, kind of like dummy targets. And we don't actually have to do dummies, right? Like we could do targets for like target practice. I kind of liked the idea that they were shaped like avatars, but maybe we'll go back on that in a minute. So the way the grenades work is a little... I don't know that I'd recommend doing it this way. This is so embarrassing. But, for what it's worth, I wrote it really fast. And so what it does is it sends 4 events called start, and they're sent with a slight delay between each. And that does that raycasting that we just talked about. So it's doing the exact same math for raycasting and then spawning an asset at that hit point. So what we are going to do, we're going to need to know about the position manager. So we need to know the position finder, I think is what I'm actually calling it. Position finder. There we go. So that's how we're going to get our position. And then we could do a delayed start event. I think that might be a good option, but I'm actually going to just delete this. I want to do some better math. We don't need to raycast. And so we know that the position event is received like an event is received. So just skimming through this script, we're going to take bits and pieces here and there to kind of speed this up. But we're going to drop down, and there should be a event, if I can remember the name of it. Find position is what we send out, and then what we receive back is new safe position, which is received with, I believe, the player ID first. And so this will be server plid. It does come in, so we have to type it in, and then we receive the vector, which is the new position. And then we'll remember that this post-start event was spawning an asset. And just to show you how to build this, you go to your Actions tab, where you'll find Spawn an Asset. Let's see. Spawn an asset with callback. Perfect. Drag that one up. The asset we want to spawn is that asset variable we created called dummy. The position is the new position that's just been received. The rotation is actually a value we're going to calculate really quickly. So we go to our operators tab, scrolling down, we can get new rotation from X, Y, Z, and then we're going to plug in a couple zeros, and then we're going to do some math for the last one. So it goes 0 here, 0 there, and then we want to rotate on the Y axis by a random amount. So we're going to grab the multiply symbol, and we're going to multiply a random number by 90 degrees because we want it to be rotated. The thing is, we don't necessarily need it to be, like, it could face any direction. Isn't that peculiar? Let's see. It could face any direction. Let's do 30 degrees. 30 degrees? So it can, 15 degrees. Why not? 15. Let's do 30. 30. I think that'll look nicer because you'll kind of get like dummies always face with this sort of rotation. And so 30 divided by 3, or 360 divided by 30 is going to give you 36 divided by 3, which is 10 plus 2, which is 12. So we need a random number between 0 and 12. So we grab this random number. Noting we're not using decimals, we're getting an integer. So between 0 and 12 will give us a value between 0 and 360 degrees. And that is our rotation that will spawn the asset out. Okay, the scale will still be 1, 1, 1. We need to send an event back to self, which we'll remember we actually already have one in here. Where is it? A event called something is receiving. Here it is. When delay is received with asset spawn. Asset spawned. No, that's not it. Why? New weapon spawn. Here it is. when new weapon spawn is received. We're going to create a brand new event name just to kind of it makes sense. So we'll call dummy spawn. It would be better if more of my events had less unique names, actually. The unique names are nice because it protects you, but at the same time, it doesn't. So there we go. Dummy spawn is sent to self. And so then down here, we're going to do one more event is received. And so this event is the dummy spawn event, which I'll have to type out. It's just, I have a list of events that is just a mile long. It takes forever to look through. Okay, dummy spawn, confirm. So when dummy spawn is received with parameter, this is the object that's been spawned in. This is the new spawn object. And confirm. We can then grab add to. I'm just going to keep rewriting this just to show you where the code blocks are. Under list, you can grab add to list, which will drag down here. We're going to add that new spawn to that object asset list here. There we go. So now we'll have a list of all the objects that have been spawned. Now when post start is received, we don't need this yet. We're going to delete that. New weapon spawn, we've just done this. This is what I was going to actually do next, was create an if statement that says if the length is less than. So we're going to go grab this if statement, drop it in here at the bottom, and then grab the greater than symbol, or actually, excuse me, the less than symbol, and then put the number of dummies on the right. And then we want to put length of list on the left. So back under our list functions, we'll find length of list, which we can then drag to the left side, and then we'll do length of the assets list. Okie doke. So if length of assets is less than number of dummies, this is going to allow us to send an event to get the new position. So we're going to go send event to the object find position. Okay, so we send find position to the position finder object with the parameter self. So that's so we can receive the event back. And then the extra parameter is the server player ID, which just makes sure that the event is received on the other side, as your parameters must match the receiving event parameters. Okay, so then if length of assets is less than dummies, we send find position. So we'll just keep going until we have the right number of dummies. And then what we need to do is also do this when we despawn event. And so we're going to get to that. I'm going to delete this. When despawn me is received, we don't need a hit position. We don't need the radius. We do need a grenade, or the similar, which is an object variable, which is going to be called the dummy. And then we're going to write very similar code to what you see here, which is, and I've actually been wanting to delete this debug print from this code, so let me quickly do that. I've been forgetting. I was like, where is that debug print coming from? There it is, and delete. Okay. Needed that early on, but not anymore. Okay, set thrown by, we don't need that. Debug print, interesting. Maybe we do need the name of the player to be received. When despawn me is received with dummy and the player ID, so we know who to give points to if we do any sort of point system. I guess we'll hold off on that for now, but if we wanted that, we'd need to send another player variable. We would need to. We don't need to run through the list of players to check if they've been blown up, so we can remove that event. If assets contains grenade. So this is interesting. There's two despawn me events here somehow. We're going to just drag this one up and drag this one up. Oh, I see. Yeah, because I know what was happening there. The grenade had to send that event slightly delayed so that it could blow up the player and then despawn itself. Okay, so when despawn me is received with dummy, if assets contain dummy, remove dummy from assets. So under your assets, you can see there are options for list contains item and remove item from list. And then we used an if statement here to see if it contained that item dummy. Then we removed it. And then we were checking to see if the length is less than 2. And actually, we want to use this same event. And this is where I was thinking we should send this off separate event. I like the idea of a post start event. So we're going to create an event called post start that does everything that we are doing in this section so that we never have to write this code multiple times. And if we need to edit it, it only is edited in one spot in this post start event. So we're going to go grab our post start from this drop down. There we go. Weird that it's not the same whatever, that's fine. So when post start is received, we're going to actually move this to the top of our script, which we'll talk about in a second. And then down here, we need to make sure post start is sent after spawning in an asset as well. We've got a 1 second delay, which I feel like is totally fine. If it contains remove item dummy, and we needed to despawn the asset as well, which I don't see in here. So under our actions tab, you'll see delete spawned asset, which we want to do first or after. We'll do it after. Okay, so we'll delete the dummy after. There we go. So then that has removed it from the list. That has despawned it. We send post start to self, which will then add a new one to the room. And when game started is received, we don't need to know about game started event. So, oh, I see. Interesting. It clears them all out at the beginning of a game, which makes sense. Not really relevant to us, which we'll get to. So then up here, when post start is received, this is how we're going to trigger this. And so if we go to our debug switch, we could have, oh, that one sends delay start. But I do want this to be a part of the debug switch. So we know that on world start, these should be in there. And when there's 2 players in the game, that's when it stops. So we're going to send a delay start with 2 seconds. And we're going to put that at the bottom. And we're going to create a new object variable, which will be called the dummy manager. So the dummies will be out there for you to see if nobody is there. Dummy manager, confirm. So drop that in here, send delay start to dummy manager after 2 seconds. I want to reorganize that. There we go, like it. And then because I want to test this, I'm going to move it outside of the if statement. And that way it'll definitely run no matter what. I will need to link this in by opening up the properties panel and referencing our dummy manager here. Drag that into here. Also give it a better name so it actually matches. Dummy. Okay. And then we are missing the position finder, which is this one. We'll go ahead and drag that reference pill into here. There we go. Okay. That is good. So we're done with this one. And we will need to link in the dummy asset here in a minute. Okay, back on our script, we'll know that there's a delayed start event. So let's go to when event delay start is received. Delay start. We send post start to self after 1 second. So this, again, is always funneling to post start to actually start the dummy spawn. And then what post start's going to do is going to check this length. And if there is space in the dummies, it's going to send find position to position finder, which will then receive this position back, which will then spawn a dummy there, which will then receive this dummy spawn event with new spawn, which will then send post start back to self, looping until we have the right number of assets, at which point it will stop. And then when the dummy is hit, we need to send despawn me to this object. And that is the tricky part. So I was thinking of doing this. What you go and do is listen to events on this object. So when it spawns in, we listen to events from the new spawn. And now we should receive this to spawn me if we have an event being sent to it, potentially. I'm not 100% convinced. We'll have to test it. What am I missing? Send post start to self. So listening to events from new spawn. Theoretically, that gives us the despawn me event. Now we also need one more event, which is to despawn all of the dummies. So this is like despawn all. I wonder if there's a event with a good name. Asset despawn, asset spawn failed. No. Despawn loop. Sure, despawn loop. Why not? So this will actually function very similar to this one. We'll just go ahead and grab this here, duplicate that into here. So it says if the length of assets is less than the number of dummies. Actually, this one is very similar but different, where we actually grab the greater than symbol and grab the greater than. So we say if the length of assets is greater than 0, then we want to despawn. Now we could send despawn loop to self and just keep despawning, but there's actually an easier way to do this, which is to use a while loop. And works as long as you don't have too many items in the list. And so what while loop does is it says, while the length of assets is greater than 0, do a thing. And so the thing that we do is remove an item from the list. But we're going to use a different remove item from list code block, which is a much better one. In my opinion, I like this one better. So it allows us to remove an item at a specific index. And so we're going to remove item at index 0 from the assets list just after deleting that asset. So then delete spawned asset. Ooh, I just realized our dummy needs a new name up here because we have an asset called dummy. Let's create a new object variable called despawn me. Okay. There's the despawn me, and then we'll drop that everywhere there was a dummy. There we go. That's better. Okay, so then we want to delete the asset that is get item from list, and that is the item at index 0 from the assets list. So it'll go from 0, despawn it. It will then remove that item from the list, and it'll do that until there's no items left. So that's our despawn loop. So what this means is our control needs to be able to send this event to self. So it needs to send the either delay start or the post start event to our script here, which I named dummy targets. And we do need to link in a dummy, but we're pretty close. We also need to send the event despawn me with an object variable. So on our gun script, this is over here. You'll see that in this stack, there is one called Gizmo Projectile. Let's see. Is that hit visual effects? Let's see. On fired. When projectile hits player. When projectile hits interactive objects. We could make it interactive, but we're actually going to use a static. Oh, but it doesn't give us the object variable. So I guess it'll have to be an interactive object. And when we send stats update to owner ID, do we send any event to the object? So it's saying we send on hit model to the object. We send hit bullet to object with position. And what we need to actually send to it is a slightly different event. It shouldn't matter that we're sending this extra event to all of the other assets that we hit because they're not using it. And this is the spawn me is sent to the object with the object as a parameter. And now let's go check that is the right event name. Go down here under dummy targets. It says when despawn me is received with the object, then despawn it. Okay, perfect. That should do the trick. So we also need to make sure to cancel sending post start a lot. So I'm just realizing there's a lot of these not being canceled. So we're going to go grab cancel sending post start to self. We want to put this in a lot of places to prevent it from spawning dummies even after we've told it not to, right? Like here under despawn loop, we need to make sure that it's not having one queued up. And then we'll drag this up to when dummy spawn is received. And then when post start, cancel sending post start, well, that shouldn't really apply. Then we'll just add one in here as well. Okay, lots of these. I think you might only even need one really here and at the other one, the one that turns it off. But then I want to add one additional thing in here, which is a Boolean that says can spawn, which is just to take this up one additional notch. So can spawn start true, and we will set it to true in the delay start event because this makes the most sense. Because now we've got an event that separates these two out. So we'll go grab Boolean input of true. We'll duplicate that and drag this down to when we shut it off and set it to false. So when we send the spawn loop, we'll set this to false. Looks like I accidentally deleted that, duplicated that. There we go. So we set can spawn to false. And then up here, when we were going to spawn the asset, we do not spawn unless that's true. So we just say, if this is true, then we can spawn. Otherwise, it'll just not be able to spawn a new assets and it'll just stop. So there we go. There we go. Even if something slips through the cracks, we're still safe. Good. Okay, let's see. What am I missing? We need to send the events in, and we need to create the dummy asset, which must be interactive. So that's gonna be fun. Okay, when the spawn loop is received, the spawn loop, and we need to send delay start. So let's go into our respawn controller where we're tracking the length of the current player IDs. And so what we can say in here is when new round is received, we will start it. When new round is received, we're going to create a new object variable called dummy manager. There. And confirm. And then we're going to send an event on new round to the dummy manager, which will be called delay start. There we go. And then we want to do one more event, which is similar to this, but we'll put it somewhere else. Okay, we got to go find where we're tracking players entering trigger, and that's where we want to see TP, a new safe position, when trigger is entered by player. What we're going to say is after we've added this person to the list, we want to see how many players are in the list, and if that is greater than 1, then we want to stop. Go ahead and change this number to 1. But so say you wanted this to play with dummies for the first 3 people to enter, you could totally do that. For us, we're just going to do 1. And so then the question is, what is the length of this list? So we'll go grab that length of list function and drop that into here. Length of the current players list greater than 1. Then we send the event despawn loop, which turns off the send event despawn loop. Okay. There we go. So if length greater than 1, send despawn loop to the dummy manager. Now with that saved, this is just about done. I think there's probably a couple errors that we might end up having, like the listen to events one is one I'm a little concerned about. But for now, we're going to create a really basic thing that will be your target. And let's go find something that's the size of a player. And I've kind of decided I don't really want to do it looking like a player anymore. I don't know why, but I've just decided I don't want to do that anymore. I don't know why. But we're going to use a cube and turn off collidability on these 3 objects. Select properties panel, collidable off, light and shadow off. And then if we take this cube, we can now make this actually collidable. So we'll stretch it from the bottom corner here and to this corner there. Sure, why not? So you don't get points if you hit it on the edge, question mark? I'm not sure. Well, let's go and do this. So you can hit it on the edge, but there'll be these like little corners you could also hit it on, but people are targeting this, so you know, it's fine. So now with that set up, we're gonna go and snap this right into the center. And then I think I'm okay with that. So then we're going to open up the properties panel of this, turning off the visibility. So this is our collider. This is what the bullets will collide with. Kind of want to make it a little bit thinner. And on both sides. There we go. And then what we're going to do is select from the cube first, then select all the other pieces. There we go. So we've got all of them selected. We can then group them together. And now we have a nice little target. So with that, we're then going to paint it with a unlit red in the center. Should give us a nice little glow. And then going outwards, I'm trying to think of like what colors you would see on a target. I'm assuming it looks a little something like that. Or maybe a little more yellow. Maybe I'm missing a color in here. It's be more like that. So you get this. That's kind of a cool target, I think. Okay. So with that, you've kind of got a goal. We could eventually add points and things to this. And like for distance, you hit it away. But for now, it's really just a mini game to like get people engaged. Now, I was thinking about adding a spin script to this, so it does this out in the field. think that would be kind of fun. Debating on it, though. Debating on it. Undo. So in your asset library, there is a script that does spin, and the easiest one to get is going to be the one on the fan, I think. So if we grab the ceiling fan, this is the one with the scripting icon in it. That one. That's funny. I didn't realize there were so many other fans in there. We'll deselect that, then delete this one. And then this fan rotation, we can actually just apply it to this. Just open up the properties panel, select the drop down, search for fan rotation, select it. And now if I start the world, we should see this go in. Don't really want to start the world yet. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that I did it right. We're going to then select the script, make sure to zoom it into the grouping. So that way it is going to be included when we spawn the asset. Okay, so fan rotation, we should rename the script to be a little bit shorter because the assets could, fan R is good. There we go. Now, it is important to note, and I'm just going to code this like this just to save any potential bugs. So I was talking about how I was afraid that that event wouldn't be received. Because there's now a script running on this, I can attach the when event despawn me is received, and that, by having it received, should guarantee that it's received. So object, I remember in the past, it wouldn't necessarily be received if there wasn't an event to receive it, and even furthermore, it wouldn't be received if there wasn't something inside the event. I don't know if that's still the case, but anyway, I've added a comment inside of a despawn me, so now this should be received. Important to note, though, that all of these things, all of these events are being listened to. So most of these don't apply. There's a bunch of things like grabbing and stuff. So we just want to use, I mean, I could delete this script and like dumb it down really quickly. You don't have to do this, but we're not using physics. We're going to use rotate by amount. We're going to use global rotation. Delay is fine. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need this. And don't need this or this. So we just need the rotation by amount. So we can delete everything else. Send loop to self. It's going to use global rotation, but it's not using physics. So actually it's use global rotation and delete all of the rest of this. Then send a loop to self after rotation delay. And it's okay that this is the deprecated code block. Not going to worry about that. We don't need to know about object being released or being grabbed or being returned. Okay, that script is way simpler. If you want to see, there's a video that shows you how to write this script on the main channel Vidyuu tutorials under rotation. And it's got like 5 different ways to do rotation. Okay, so there we go. This is animated. It's collidable, all the things. And now we're going to make an asset out of it. So I'm going to go to my asset library, go into Horizon Royale. There it is. And then, oh, that's the template. We want to go to this one, new asset, select this, confirm, and call it target. I know I called it dummy this entire time, and now I'm calling it target. Please forgive me. Choose take photo. And then I'm going to jump my head inside of this so the photo's somewhat okay. No, it's not great. Okay, I did just get the alarm that we're hitting the time for the recording's going to fail, which we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to have to stop recording and start over. Let's just go ahead and save this. Not starting over, you know. But we are almost done. So let's go ahead and delete this now that we have a reference for it. Running up here, we can then go in the rotation icon, drag the target into the empty pill slot, and now this is theoretically done. So we'll go ahead and script play real quick. Clear and play. Love to just get this in one take, but I know I've only got like a minute before the recording's going to stop. Oh, look at the dummies. They're out there. Oh, that's so cool. Look at that. Okay, there's 5 of them. So I jump in and then I can shoot. Oh, wow, that's working. Oh man, that is working well. Oh, this is This is amazing. Okay. And you can imagine when this has stuff in it, it'll work even better. And then they do slowly respawn. There's a 1 second delay, you'll remember. So there is that 1 second delay, but holy smokes, this is amazing. Okay, I'm going to publish this. Come check it out at Horizon Royale. That's been an amazing tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in Horizon. Bye. Yes, I'm looking to see if there's any bugs, just real quick. Nope, no bugs. These are the normal ones that happen because of build mode is different than play mode. Bye, guys.